We did not. Might be useful.
Yeah.
There's also
I have a question about what quad trees are, but I'm gonna. I don't remember that. We're gonna swap over to our next presentation. Just so.
Which looks very different.
Yeah. So those balancing things about what quad trees are, but I'm gonna.
Oh, now you got time delay.
Yeah. No. Give me 1 second to finish this. Yeah. So those balancing things about what quad trees are.
Oh, now you got.
I was, and I was testing to make sure things working while we're running, but I think we should be good.
I apologize for being loud.
Okay, so the next one up is going to be Tara Delaney. She's going to be talking to us about project management for the teachers game. Again, it's downstairs and it's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool, and you can get on your phone with.
Yeah, so I'm going to pull up her presentation and I will try.
Okay.
Oh, wait. Oh, sorry. Not that. Not that. Technology is hard. Indeed. 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 Where's my mouse? Okay. Sorry.
Okay, my name is Tara Delaney, as Andre said. Just a little bit about me before we start. First of all, my undergrad is industrial engineering, so I loved your presentation on logic trees, so super big fan of that. But then I got my master's from Johns Hopkins about 2 years ago. So I've only been here at NASA for about 1 year, working for the ASRC PAC 4 contract. So I was hired as an IT project manager. My experience is not in hardware, so I can't speak to that as much. I pretty much looked to my essays to find my hardware for me. So in this project, Anthony is actually the one who found my hardware. Anthony's back there. But I'll talk a little bit about that, but kind of talk about what project management looks like from our standpoint and how we got executive buy-in and stuff like that. So if you click through, before I came here, I had 12 years of experience, and I went after getting an industrial engineering degree, into music marketing. So I was marketing production manager for a concert group. It was pretty cool, going, visiting tours, meeting all the bands, doing stuff. But then you have to pay off your industrial engineering degree. So I started working for a software company that did ticketing. So I would actually go and do all the installs. It should be one click. So big concert venues, outdoor venues, racetracks, like literally had to go camp in an RV with a Wi-Fi hotspot to manage ticket sales and things like that. So it was kind of fun, very different. So I did that for a few years and managed their East Coast operations. And then I was hired to actually steer and drive the product. So I was the director of product and project management for the software company. So I would go to Dallas, Texas, to the Granada Theater to go talk to them about their cool buy-ins and meet and greet passes, the New York Manhattan Cocktail Classic, to install stuff at the New York Public Library, going up to Seattle and literally driving the duck boats to see what operations look like from an operations standpoint, to show how the technology can integrate with the operations. We had a cabaret show right there at the public market in Seattle too. So kind of getting an operations standpoint to make sure that the technology didn't hinder operations, but enhanced operations. And then after that, we got acquired. So our portfolio got even bigger. So I'd have to travel to Canada. That's Six Flags Laurent, to install reserved seating for the International Fireworks Competition there. Really interesting venue. We would do the Military Bowl game. So literally mapping out what it looked like, using matrices and everything like that to map out seats. So people could buy their seats for a Military Bowl, to working with people doing proposals for Disney and things like that. So it's definitely interesting to see everybody's operations. And my big plan and always thing was, how can software help instead of hinder any business operations? So that's kind of what I brought to the table when I got hired. So clicking. One of the projects we just worked on, my first year in again, is the customer requested us to, based on a visit to another NASA center, the customer wanted us to build a high-tech interactive display to show off the project in the building on center. So as Andre said, there's a really cool kiosk downstairs on the first floor. But when someone tells you they want to put a really cool interactive display in a building on Goddard inside the gates, you don't get really excited, because you're like, dude, how many people are going to see that? Like, let's be real about that. So from that standpoint, it's also a huge financial burden when you're buying something like that. So Anthony had actually found a really cool hardware, which I'm going to show you guys in a second. But we had 1 month to put together the proposal, timeline, what we were going to do for our product. We had to update them 6 weeks into it and then finish 8 weeks after that. So we had 3.5 months for the whole project because it was time for launch, because they decided they wanted this for TDRS launch. So we got the project and they wanted it to be available for that. So we had requirements here at Goddard are very specific normally. It's like, we want you to deliver this exact thing. Our requirements were educational, interactive, visually captivating, fun, innovative, and durable. I mean, of all the requirement statements you can get here at NASA, it's probably the most broad you can get. But that also allowed us to have some freedom, and I definitely appreciate that the customer let us go from that route. So click. So what we launched, which you guys can get to easily, is the TDRS Builder game. So we were told to build a kiosk, an interactive display in the building. Again, what's the reach for that? Probably like what, like maybe 10 people a day, let's be honest. But we knew that ESC was just building a site. Nicole led that website development project. So we wanted to really make sure that this was something that was on the website desktop. It was on mobile phones, that we had handouts for all the EPO that TDRS was doing so people actually went and played the game. We wanted the kids who were at the games and playing it to have a takeaway. And we didn't want something mounted in the building because TDRS is launching, so they're only going to be in the building for another year, first of all. Second of all, it needed to be something that was digital and captivating to bring in attention at events. So we went with the kiosk. So our big accomplishments was we met the deadline. When the deadline is launch, you have to meet a deadline. We all know that. But then what we also did is develop a true launch campaign. Again, if you're building something for inside building 12, like putting chairs or something or putting up a display case, it looks nice, it's fine. You don't really have to launch it. People, the 10 people a day who are experiencing building 12 for the first time will see it. But we really wanted this to be a true launch campaign. So we have these cards for the handout for the EPO event. There's actually a badge you can download and share on Facebook and Twitter after you play the game. You can even download it yourself. There's also a sticker that kids get saying, I built TDRS, like I'm an engineer for TDRS, when they actually play the game and are successful down at launch. So we really built into a true launch campaign. Another thing we did is we make sure we engaged resources across center. With Nicole's charge with the website, and Mike was getting tapped some other stuff in our group, we were looking for someone who had some game experience. So I talked to Andre, and Andre pointed out Dylan Christie, who normally comes to these. So we worked with Dylan because he had some gaming background. And we really built up our network to try and build how this could be a model across center. Then we thought through our multi-channel delivery. So again, we weren't just going to build something that was sitting in building 12 for 10 people to be exposed to a day. We wanted to build something that could be hundreds or thousands and would really actually add to the launch experience. And the big bang for your buck. Every piece of collateral we built was reused. So we never built something graphically that was used one time. Everything was, when you go down there and see the screensaver, it became social media shareables. When you actually look at the game itself and the language of the components behind the part, it actually becomes postcards. It became stickers. It became multi-use collateral that had more reach from that standpoint. And similarly, we built for a kiosk, a desktop, and a mobile phone and tablet. Our challenges was recruiting the team. When the resources are overcommitted, like they always are here at NASA, it's hard sometimes to find people who have bandwidth. The government procurement process was actually our toughest. We got the kiosk like 2 days before it was supposed to ship out for the original TDRS launch date. So we literally got the hardware 2 days in advance. So we were just building to spec that we could find online and just hoping that it would work and look good. So that had a few tweaks at the end. Also gold plating. So I told you how we built all these cool things and collateral. That of course was not part of the original bid, but every time we told the customer something, they got excited and wanted to buy it. But that means we had to deliver every single thing that we told the customer that we were interested in doing because we told them about it. And then data center moves. We had some issues. Sometimes Dylan was holding it locally on his PC, so we could test it always full time there. But with the data moving from his PC locally here and uploaded, it sometimes caused some challenges for our testing. But overall, it was pretty good. So talking for you guys who like technology a little bit, Andre had found this Phaser game engine, which is a HTML5 game framework, which is pretty cool. That's what Dylan used to save a lot of time in building the game. So it might be something for those of you who are interested in doing some cool events to use. But it worked out as a pretty awesome software. I know that he shared it with Becky and with Nicole too, so they're both looking at this now too. The hardware we used was an IDM kiosk. I don't know how Anthony found it in the first place. Somebody's using it somewhere.
Yeah, it's all good. It's in use in a couple facilities, Houston and Orlando.
So the kiosk is pretty cool. It's downstairs, can be fully wrapped. We chose not to wrap it because we want to reuse the kiosk because Teachers is launching in like a couple weeks. So we're gonna be able to reuse the kiosk, but it's really cool. They also have touch tables. They also have this cool thing that you can do that you can physically put down on a touch table, like as a coaster for your wine glass, and make games around it for like casinos and all, for like digital gaming. The whole thing that they have is really cool. But I would definitely check out the IDM software that they have. We're actually using them for another proposal that we're working right now. So we'll probably be using at least 1 or 2 more of those coming up soon. And then another challenge that we're looking at was cross-browser compatibility. So everyone's got their favorite browser that they test on, right? And we all know that, you know, I think my eyesight is amazing because on Google Chrome, my screen resolution is always 80%, right? Because I have amazing vision. It's not why it's at 80% because you have amazing vision. It's because Google automatically displays at 1.25 times size for the pixel resolution. So when you start looking at the game across browsers, across screen sizes, and when your audience of testers includes people who might not have the best vision, so they have their screen at 150%, 200% viewing, the game did not look great. And when we were in testing phase, I'm warning them, I'm like, I'm warning you, we're sending this link out to our customers. Our customers don't all have our 80% resolution on Google Chrome. They're looking at like 150, 200% sometimes. So let's make sure it works for that kind of item as well. Luckily, our prime customer project manager is a huge gamer on his phone and loves mobile phones. So since we did the mobile phone aspect, he was very happy with that. So lessons learned. When you're assembling the new groups like this, when you're doing cross-functional groups, pad your schedule. I don't think our graphics person understood the time frame and tweaks that were required to build a website or to build a digital game. If I were recommending anything to all of you, anytime you need something from graphics people, tell them like double in advance of when you actually need to buy to install it on the site. They're gonna have to tweak those graphics 10 times over to make sure that it fits for all those web browsers. Luckily, we did pad our schedule, which was great. Again, think about multiple channels and be good stewards. When I say be good stewards, it's something that I definitely believe in. We need to be good stewards of the taxpayers' money. So if you can make one project have a huge reach, make sure that you offer that opportunity to the government so they're spending, get the biggest bang for their buck. It doesn't need to be as isolated as us thinking of making Building 12 look cool. Let's make the world a better place, kind of thing. So in my speedy presentation, my tips for success is select your team wisely. Sometimes when you have a larger team, it's harder to contain and make your deadline. So make sure you choose your team wisely. I'm currently working on 2 active proposals, and we have kind of the similar structure. They all have resources they can lean on for assistance, but there is a primary person. Nicole's a prime, going to be a prime on one of them. Dylan's a prime on another one. I'm trying to get Andre on board with the 3rd one. So just make sure you have that in place. Make sure you also have a good writer. I'm going to tell you that because that person is going to communicate your message probably 10 times better than you will. And they're a good interface to have with the customer and explain why things should happen the way they are. Ensure all of your team members are part of the planning. Make sure you establish the roles. That definitely led to our success. I say check in regularly, but encourage independent work. One of the best things I think we did is cancel meetings. So we had weekly meetings. When we were uptight against the deadline because we had a deliverable due the next week, we canceled the meeting. We would do an email update and realized we already knew our direction for that week. We just needed to get the stuff done. So don't waste time in an hour. You don't need to waste time in an hour.
Yay, Slack.
What?
Yay, Slack.
Yeah. Use the team to hold each other accountable. Because it became such a tight-knit group, we could call each other out being like, no, I didn't get it, and it was fine. And we'd be like, no, I'm so sorry, like I let you down. It felt like more like disappointment than getting yelled at, which was really cool. Seek feedback often. We made sure that we did drive-by check-ins with the customer to make sure the customer knew what was happening so that way they didn't feel like we had to present them. We only presented them one time, which was midway, and then we delivered. So it was literally a really quick turnaround, but it was because we just did like casual drive-bys with them, showing them like previews of what was happening, which just kept them on track. And we got any quick feedback, so we could adjust quickly before submitting and getting the, we did this wrong. I'd say radiate the release. I know we all talk about test groups and you have your testers and how you release that way. That was a huge win for us. I wish we had had more testers though at the beginning. We asked a large group of people, and I wish we would have asked the 10 people we knew who were committed to testing to give us feedback instead of just putting it out to everyone, because by putting it out to 70 some people, I think we actually got less return on our testers. So I would have radiated a little bit better. Make sure you share the success, like coming to these meetings and bringing cards. And then always look back to move forward. Coming to NASA for a year, I feel like I hear lessons learned like every day times 10. It doesn't have to be a formal lessons learned activity, in my opinion. We did a SWOT instead. So we discussed what the strengths of the team were, what our weaknesses were. We looked at opportunities for future projects and what we wanted to do in the future and working together or working with others, and then what threats we were, what skill sets we didn't have, what threats could we be imposing based on budget cuts, BSA initiatives, something like political items. We really looked at it from that standpoint. It was much more fun and much more engaging, I think, than a pointing fingers activity. So I like that a lot. So that's it. That's it, and right on time.
Yeah, right on.
How the heck did you get the game to work on Windows, Macs, phone, Android? I mean,
So it's not an app. So it is browser based. So it's really does it work in Safari? Does it work
is it JavaScript?
It's HTML5 and JavaScript. Phaser actually is pretty cool if you check it out.
Yeah.
Andre actually recommended it.
Yeah, I heard about it on one of the podcasts I was having. They use it a lot for casino games and that sort of thing.
Cross-browser issues.
Yeah.
That's
So I
what.
think most of the cross-browser issues are probably going to be, I think, related to scaling,
It is.
which you can handle through your graphics and that sort of thing. But as far as I can't remember what the old browsers. A lot of the browsers too are coming together, so it's not as bad as like the jQuery days when you needed jQuery in order to do anything. A lot of them now, the APIs are pretty stable, and they're getting closer and closer together. You just have to worry about situations where people had really old versions of IE, or now it's Safari. Safari's like the new IE. But for the most part, these like frameworks hide that complexity for you. They'll do that stuff for you. And when they don't, you'll see it. It's minor. It's less than most times.
And so did you have to like kind of build a game in mind with the canvas might be vertical?
Yeah, and so that was actually one of the big things. Like the idea in kiosk, if you go on and see it, it's a very vertical display. I think I have a picture right there. So it's an extremely vertical display. So one of the things you have to think about, we need to discuss in discussion points, is when you're interacting on the phone, for example, Becky and Nicole were part of our discussions for that. So on the phone, your real estate is like this big, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the number one requirement of this game was it being educational, because they can't fund anything that's just fun. So it had to be educational. So we had to explain what the different teachers' parts did when you're building the game. So we had to have a way to display that to meet the primary objective first. So you have to hide that. Difference is downstairs when you see the kiosk, because the real estate is so large, the text display is always at the top versus you're playing the game kind of in the lower half of the real estate. So it's kind of those kinds of things of looking at the interaction differences just based on screen sizes. Similarly, on your computer, you're always going to see all the parts that you're going to put up, because the computer screen, unless you have it like me where it's twisted vertically, is wide enough. So you'll see all those parts. So it's kind of things like that, like scrolling and looking at those things. And then it was rendering the images, and how those laid out was really kind of a big piece. One of the things that we defined for our work forward is Dylan, our lead developer, is going to in the future say that this is exactly the size of the piece I want you to make. Give it to me in this size. So he did some really cool scaling of things to make all the pieces similar to fit into this like scroller on the bottom, but they didn't come that way. So the pictures down there, he's like scaling, and he was like, oh, it would have just been much easier if he would have just given me the squares and then you just drag them up off of it. So it's a little bit of lessons there.
I think
There's sound. If someone's playing it in the back.
yeah, so
And we actually did the sounds for him too.
yeah,
The
he's a
game.
music guy.
Try it out on a couple of different machines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We plan on extending the kiosk as a future project too. We're actually using one of these kiosks for a new display at the visitor center. Is our next project with one of these
It's
kiosks.
usually something like Electron to get it on.
We literally just it's
It's a web browser. It's just
Windows
full
10 is
screen.
built into the kiosk.
but that was
The browser just goes full screen then?
yeah. So that was actually one of our complications is when we realized that this was going out. They're like, yeah, we got Wi-Fi everywhere. I'm like, you don't have an actual guaranteed connection to Wi-Fi to play this game. So we wanted to make sure that the machine acted as a local host. So that's how that was built for that reason
Otherwise,
too.
it would have to meet the security requirements.
Yeah, so that's another thing. For that quick implementation, we had to take it off the network to meet the security requirements. So it's all locally hosted on the machine, so it doesn't connect to the network here.
Good approach.
Yeah.
Unless you want to spend a lot of time getting it through security.
Yeah, we didn't have time for that.
No, ain't nobody got time for
How
that.
much is like a kiosk? Are we talking 50, 60,000?
16, 17,000
Oh, wow.
for that
That's
one.
not outrageous. That's not cheap. That's not outrageous.
But it's actually really cool too, because it is self-contained, it's fully touchscreen, it's got the computer. So what's cool about this kiosk is if after TDRS launches, we'll have to have during an active meeting the Bumblebee game on it. So the bottom box you see right below the screen there is actually a video camera. So you can actually build interactive games where you're like the Bumblebee is the sample game on there. So you actually move around like a Bumblebee and land on different flowers and stuff. So we're talking about doing some ones where you interact and like tilt satellites in different
So it
ways
does
to
like
angle
motion
stuff.
detection.
Exactly. So we can really do some cool stuff with this kiosk long term too.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Well, looks like we're winding down. So thanks everybody for coming out. If you have not signed in, please do so. The notes will come out whenever I have time. So that's
Stay away from her because you might be having more.
yeah, by all means, go downstairs, check out the game. It's pretty cool, to be honest. And next week, not next week, next session, I don't know what it is, but the topic will be out. I won't be here, so we're gonna need volunteers to take on parts of this so that things run smoothly. Okay?
In other words,
All right.
we're going to have one next week, huh?
Yes, we have it out of bed. If you're interested in helping out, send me an email, and we'll put together a little meeting or something, and just talk about different parts.
Yeah, that's what I built for my. Yeah, I built mine with the.
Is that empty?
There's a couple full ones.
Oh,
If anybody's interested in that.